So we have our first question. First question is directed towards all of you guys, and please feel free to elaborate as much as you'd like. To set the premise, digital delivery is the cornerstone of modern transportation projects, offering a unified way where designers, planners, contractors, and operators can collaborate in real time, ensuring that projects are not only completed with greater efficiency, but also with enhanced quality, safety, and sustainability. In light of Hurricane Milton going on right now, resiliency measures are also a focus, but digital delivery seems to have a different definition to everyone. Since we have some representation from the various aspects of the life cycle, what does digital delivery mean to you? Julianne?
Sure. I think that what digital delivery means to me as an owner is really very simple. It's using the most efficient and effective tools to deliver our transportation projects. So I'm director of our Structures Design Bureau at New York State DOT, and I oversee final design for new and replacement bridge projects, as well as rehabs across all of New York State. And in the work that we do, we realize that we are no longer confined to our conventional 2D plan sets to convey our design intent to the contractors. And digital delivery can save contractor time, which we know is directly equated to saving taxpayer dollars and valuable engineering effort in streamlining the design to construction phase. Now, we all know what digital delivery is here. That's why we're at YII this week. But let's talk about what New York State is doing in regards to going digital. And what we're doing is we're taking a pilot project approach to this initiative. And we pride ourselves in being expert owners. And we realize that the best way to get that experience in digital twins is to jump right in and do a few pilot projects. So in 2018, we formed our digital delivery committee, where we had representation from our structures staff, highways, construction, as well as legal, so that we could figure out the best way to produce and deliver a full model-based digital delivery project while still conforming to our New York State legislation, laws, and DOT standards and policies. So our first project was Route 28 over the Esopus Creek, and it was a great first project to do. I will admit we learned a lot of valuable lessons along the way. We had regular debriefings with the contractor, with the fabricator, their subcontractors, and probably most importantly, our construction staff, so that we could figure out what is working well, what is not working well, and how can we take that feedback to inform our next pilot project. So that was for East 138th Street over the Major Deegan Expressway down in New York City. And the two pilot projects could not be more different. Route 28 was in a very rural area upstate. We learned a lot along the way, and we figured, hey, let's just do the most challenging project possible in one of the most congested areas in the country as our second project. But what we were able to do is we were able to improve on our workflows. We took the feedback from the contractor and our fabricators and construction staff, and we were able to provide better 3D information models for our second pilot project. Really the benefit of that is, they talked and we listened. And that's really one of the key elements of digital delivery, is that we cannot remain stagnant. We have the ability to innovate and to improve and really push the boundaries on what we conventionally have now, which is our 2D plans. So this is one reason why we piloted these model-based projects with our own in-house DOT staff, because we really felt that, how can we properly scope work for a consultant if we don't even know what we want to ask for? So through all the experience that we've gained in our pilot projects, we feel this is what really makes New York a leading owner in digital delivery in the US. We've reaped the obvious benefits of digital twins. We've been learning a lot about that this week. And now what we're doing is we're extrapolating those benefits to dozens of pilot projects for transportation across all of New York State, and we're doing that through our hybrid digital delivery initiative. So, we kind of really dove in on our first two projects, and we said we're going to do everything full model-based, full 3D models as contractual documents. And now we're scaling it back a little bit, and what we're doing is we're using all kinds of relevant electronic information. So it might be full 3D solid models, or maybe it's Excel spreadsheets for information that's best transmitted in a tabular format, or exported XML files for alignments or profiles, that sort of thing. And on our first 2 pilots, we really used a lot of the same core staff to get through these initiatives. And we found that, we had a lot of benefits, we learned a lot, but now it's time to take it completely statewide and really get all of our engineers, all of our contractors in the state, all of our inspection staff. Let's get them exposed to the benefits of digital delivery and how we can use it in New York State.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Bruce, how are you guys, what does digital delivery mean to you guys over at Parsons?
Yeah, so there are a lot of, I think, industry and client pressures to get going with digital delivery. You can see from the slide, we have a comprehensive team looking at it. I think we work on some very large joint ventures around the world, so with a lot of our peer firms. So yeah, there's a lot of, I think, pressures to get going with digital delivery. We have a whole framework set up, so we have a working group. We have 8 substreams underneath there. We're just moving into the throes of the implementation phase. So we've got about 10 to 12 projects in flight where we're testing components of the methodology we've delivered and developed, and we're doing that with sort of digital-ready clients. So some of those pathfinders, we're looking to partner very closely with vendors like Bentley to help us deliver as we introduce some new tools and new processes to the framework.
So not necessarily all the technology, but also with the processes and training the people and making sure that you guys have your team set up, right?
Yeah, I think, a big part of it is getting our project teams the right resources, the training, the coaching, and doing it from an incremental perspective, right? I don't think there's very many projects where we're going to kind of do the big bang and go wholesale. There will be some, but I think it's good to test the framework, the different components, the pieces that are priorities for clients, and then feed that back through our change process to make things better.
Awesome. Well, Andy, from a construction manager perspective, what does digital delivery mean to you guys?
Well, I actually had a couple questions for my colleagues
Sure.
first. So, Julianne, when's the right time in the design process to move into 3D? Like, when do you start using the 3D environment?
So I think that it could happen at any time, and don't think that you have to wait until you're in final design. That's something that we can struggle with. That's what my staff specialize in, is that last component right before construction. But as we're seeing a lot more visuals being created for public involvement, stakeholder agreement early on in the environmental review process, for example, once the picture's out there, everyone's going to remember and say, that's exactly what I want. So we really need to be using engineering models early on. If you're going to be using 3D to create renderings, let's make them 3D information models so that we know that it's constructible. And we were talking about that over lunch, I believe, that we really need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence early on in the process, because that's when it's the cheapest and easiest to make corrections.
Solving problems early is the way to
Exactly.
get moving, right? It seems like the model's not the outcome of a design process, is it? It's the environment for the design process to make decisions. Would you sort of agree with that?
Yeah, I would, and I think because going digital is like trendy right now, everyone thinks, well, that's my goal, is to make a model, and then I can pat myself on the back, I did it, I made the model. That's not the point of it. You need to reap the benefits of what goes along with the creation and the review process and collaboration as you're creating the model. So don't just skip to the end game, use it the entire process.
That's really good.
The process is important, but then from the contractor's perspective, where do you see that meaning, having more meaning over there on that?
Well, I mean, we've talked about this a number of times, but I like to take a step back when I answer the question about what does digital delivery mean.
Yeah.
Because and for me, it's really about the people in the field, either for the owner side or the contractor side, but the people that are actually out in the field building work, driving our infrastructure forward by putting work in place. So digital delivery, I think if we start with the concept of digital delivery instead of the problems that we're trying to solve, which is, labor issue related and safety and quality, and you want to start with the deliverables. What is it? What's the target I'm shooting at? Define that first, and now we can figure out what the right tool to use to solve that problem. So I like to sort of start there, but then also, this idea, what does it mean? Well, it means transparency and it means accountability. I think the two things go together.
Yeah.
So when you introduce better information into a process, everybody can see what it is that you're going to build. So the Google partnership, the Cesium, the dropping a design into context and being able to understand what you're going to go out into the field to build. Doing that creates transparency, but it also creates accountability. Because the people who are participating in the process, it's very hard to look at an environment, a total digital environment, and say, well, I didn't see what I saw. Maybe I can go back to my silo and not have to do anything about it. That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody sees the whole picture.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think the third thing that's really important, everybody wins with this. This isn't a zero-sum game. It's not, the designer gets to take advantage of it and the contractor loses, or the owner, or the technology provider, or everybody in this process. If we focus on those deliverables, what problems are we trying to solve, and we say, I think we've got a set of tools to get better, everybody wins at that point. So I think that's a little bit of a change in mentality that everybody needs to adopt, that don't think in terms of, well, am I getting anything out of this, or am I going to give something to somebody that they might use against me? Look, let's use better information to solve the problems.
You mean there's no losers?
I don't think there is. I haven't found them yet anyway.